What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, inspiring all of us to look better, love better, be better, and mostly just feel better every damn day of our lives. And our Tuesday night show, brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. That's just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, near the Lansing and East Lansing border. Fantastic place. Was just there Monday night with my co-ed soccer team. Great local beers, fantastic menu, modern Asian American menu, an unbelievable place to watch a game. And during MSU game, have great MSU game day specials as well. That's Front 43 and Cask & Company. Check them out at caskandcompany.com. Jason, how you doing, man?
Free Ubers.
Was that co-ed soccer team legal?
What do you mean, like of age?
Well, the ones that you coach are like 6.
No, these are people in their 20s, 30s, and then me, 40s.
Oh, I thought you were taking kids to a bar or something.
No, I wouldn't.
I mean, it would be less creepy than you coaching them without a kid on the team, but barely. Anyway, good to see you, man, again.
Yeah, you as well. And also for people, we will be at Firekeepers Casino at Dacey's Taproom and Sportsbook at Firekeepers.
I'm not telling a jail story.
And Jason's not going to tell jail stories. So we'll actually have a planned show. We'll do Twitter questions and some fun stuff. On Thursday night, 7 o'clock show, Thursday night at Dacey's Sportsbook at Firekeepers. That's right off I-94 near Battle Creek. Hope you'll join us. We'll bet on some games. We'll have some fun. We'll hang out. So we'll do a show. So if you're not there, you can listen anyway. But if you're there, we'd love to have you as well. Again, Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Firekeepers Casino live show as well. So yeah, we'll do that. I think we've got a good show tonight. We'll have Harry on, of course. We'll pick the games, the MSU game included, the Lions game, Michigan game, all that stuff in a little bit. Mike Vorel from the Seattle Times is going to join us in a few minutes, and we're going to talk about Washington football, try and get a sense of this team and whether Michigan State, what Michigan State's up against.
Are they going to cover the spread? That's pretty much all we want to know.
Michigan State's like a 3.5-point dog now at this point.
Yeah.
That line moved a little bit from what Circus opened it. I think they were a little
Circa always opens them kind of weird, don't they? Where you see the line 2 days from that line that they put out, and it's totally different. And I guess that's the Michigan State game is one of those games.
And to me, the lack of knowledge of whether Jayden Reed's going to play is a little bit concerning. Like I think that's
not enough to flip a line like that.
It's not, because Vegas isn't smart enough to do that. Because Vegas won't move a line for a player even if a player moves a game a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like Vegas doesn't know the matchup; they just know the numbers.
But Jayden Reed is not that guy that would sway the number.
Here's why he wouldn't sway the number, but here's why he could sway the game. Because when you look at a guy like Peyton Thorne trying to get comfortable in the passing game and get in a rhythm, the guy he's most comfortable with is Jayden Reed. And most of his overthrows were to Keon Coleman. Most of his off-target throws were to Keon Coleman and Jeremy Bernard. Like, none of them were to Jayden Reed. That is the guy that they're in sync. He knows where he's going to be. They make plays for each other. They see the same thing. They trust that they see the same thing. That matters. Now, Trey Mosley's been around a long time too, and certainly they've got a good tight end group. They've got good running backs. I'm not saying it determines the game, but there are, they're less likely to win if they don't have Jayden Reed. And I still think there's a pretty good chance he plays. It's just that Mel Tucker isn't saying it.
But if they run the ball the way they did against Akron, I think they'll be fine. I think Peyton Thorne, I think it's going to be a good thing for him to be away from Spartan Stadium.
Totally.
And just prove the doubters wrong. I think he's going to have a strong game. I was worried about this game when we did the hot takes on Sunday, but I've changed my tune on this, and I love the 3 and a hook.
Do you really?
I'm all over that. Yeah.
Okay.
With or without Jayden Reed, I still like the Spartans plus 3.5.
Well, that's, I
changed my tune on that.
All right. I have no great feel on this because the problem with Washington is they look a lot better, and I've watched part of both of their games.
Is it scary better, though?
Well, that's what you don't know. They haven't played anybody yet.
Georgia's scary. That's
Right.
a scary football team.
Well, and if they had played Oregon and done this, it would be like, oh, okay, you know.
Right.
But they haven't played anybody yet. So in Michigan
And it's
State,
still
really,
Penix. I mean, I understand he can scramble. He's got an arm, but I don't know.
and Michigan State really hasn't played anybody either. So I don't think we have.
But they beat
Agreed.
Akron 52-0. I understand they didn't look great in the first half of that Akron game. The Western game is kind of iffy, right? But I still think that they have the better talented team going in. I understand we're all concerned about the travel, but
Yeah, I mean, so Washington beat Kent State 45-20. Kent State's middle of the road MAC team. I think a little more seasoned than Akron. So it's not like it's the same team. And then they beat they beat Portland State 52-6. Ain't that much different than 52-0. So I don't know that we're dealing with teams that are very different. Michigan State does not win when they go west. They won at the Rose Bowl, but otherwise they do not win when they go west. They haven't done it in any of our lifetimes. I don't even think the Queen of England was the Queen of England the last time Michigan State
gone too soon.
Won when they went west. The other thing I want to talk about before we get to Mike here in a little bit is the news that came out today about Jaden Akins and the stress reaction on his foot. And you can just feel the collective groan from Michigan State fans, and rightly so. I mean, this is a program that's dealt with a lot of these types of injuries that have ruined some seasons or altered careers of players. And again, right now it's supposed to be a 4-week injury. And there have been some of these that have not ruined things. Like, people forget the ones that didn't ruin something. And Miles Bridges, for example, had a stress reaction and missed a chunk of time and was fine, right?
Do other teams have this many stress
so.
fracture injuries? Liz Frank, whatever the F it is.
Well, this isn't a Liz Frank.
Whatever.
I did think about, like, one of the things I might do this year
Frank, I don't care who it is
reach out to the beat writers of, like, every major program and just ask them, what's the injury that the fan base you cover most dreads or most thinks is significant or is singles out there, is singular to their program. Like, if you ask Michigan State fans, they'd say it's a stress fracture of the foot without question. And there's probably a lot of other places that feel that way. But if you're a Michigan State fan or you cover Michigan State, you're not paying attention to any of it anywhere else. So it just feels like it happens at the program here.
All right, let's go to Michigan. Does Michigan have an injury that all of their basketball players get on their effing feet?
It's a good question.
I mean, come on. Do we have to get playmakers involved and do they have to start wearing like Brooks, like those fancy running shoes?
I'm wearing Brooks right now.
Right. Like, do we have to get those like triple E wide? I mean, what is happening with the footwear here? I mean, I understand we don't follow injuries up with other teams, but what about the Big Ten?
Well, we'll do a little survey and we'll see, because there's some. You also got to have writers who've been around a little while, but there are enough writers who have in the Big Ten. I think we can get an answer to this. I think we can get a sense of, is this a Michigan State thing?
It's weird.
Is it bad luck? And you know, as long as the timeline I think what's scary is that it's a foot, and that previously when they've said this, the timeline hasn't always stuck. Like previously, you know, and he had surgery. So if it's only 4 weeks and he's back with 4 weeks to go before the season, it's not that big a deal. But if it lingers, if it's 6 weeks and then he's not really up to speed at the beginning of the year, it ain't like the November schedule is easy. And here's a guy you were counting on to take that next step, and not just fans counting on him. When you listen to the coaching staff, they talk about, you know, they talk about Jaden Akins like the next thing. And so that's them. They're not underhyping him. They're not underselling him. They think he can be that good. And something that derails the beginning of your season can derail your season, can derail a team season, can change the dynamic of a team, can make it come together later. And this is not a schedule that really does that well. Now, you might have a rough non-conference year, you know, season, be able to reset yourself a little bit in December before that January gauntlet, but it's not a great year for that. So obviously this not great news for Michigan State. But is the thing is that there's just no way to know if this is going to linger for a while. And Joshua Langford is obviously the worst case scenario, right? And that's what everybody thinks, and it wasn't that long ago. And I still remember Izzo coming in on that press conference and sort of the disappointment of it when it was clear that it was going to be a bigger deal than they thought. And so hopefully for Jaden Akins, a young promising player, that this is really a 4-week deal, and it's over. It's more like what Miles Bridges dealt with, and that by the time because I think at the time they didn't even say it was that with Miles Bridges. They called it a sprained ankle, but I don't think his agent and his people wanted the idea of a stress reaction out there.
A Liz Frank, if you will.
It was not a Liz Frank. Not everything's a Liz Frank. Is that you're just going to call any foot injury a Liz Frank?
Right.
I like it.
I'm not a doctor if you haven't known.
I didn't know. I didn't know that. All right, we are going to get to Mike Vorel here momentarily. We'll take a really quick break, come back. Couch in the Room presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 in Cask and Company.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Skymint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Skymint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Skymint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Skymint Cannabis. You'll love this place.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
It's time now for our Hopcat interview of the week, presented, of course, by Hopcat, which includes the Peyton Thorn Burger, which Jason and I just had a few minutes ago, which is fantastic. I had mine with the egg on it, Jason without the egg, but just a terrific meal. And, of course, we had the formerly known as crack fries that are truly that as well. Hopcat, I think you know how we feel about them, with locally crafted beers at every single location, lots of TVs to watch the game, and mouth-watering, award-winning burgers. Very pleased now to have Mike Vorel from the Seattle Times, who covers the Washington Huskies. And Mike, are you a suburban Chicago guy originally?
Yeah, I'm from the southwest suburbs. Went to Lockport High School, about a half hour outside the city. So definitely very familiar with Michigan State and Big Ten football.
Yeah, no, I noticed the 708 number, and you worked at the South Bend paper for a while, correct?
I did. I covered Notre Dame for 3 years right before coming out here.
Yep. No, I remember the byline and knew your work from then. And so, I would urge people, if they're trying to get a sense of what's going on with Washington football, to read Mike's stuff. Fantastic read. And by the way, you got, Venus Williams out there today? You got lots of stuff happening. And the first thing I looked at when I was checking the headlines, I was like, what? You got Venus Williams playing tennis at Washington. How cool is that? What's the – obviously there's a lot of buzz about a new coach. There's new energy, all that stuff. But like Michigan State, hasn't really – Washington hasn't really been tested yet. Have you been able to get a sense of what's real and what's not about this Washington football team?
Not to that extent, but I think if you're Washington and you were in 4-8 last season and you lost your opener to Montana last year – there's just a good baseline to know that you look like a Power 5 program again, where obviously you're cleaning up against Kent State 45-20, you're beating Portland State 52-6, and you're doing the things that you want to do and that you should be able to do. So I think there is kind of a relieving baseline there if you're a UW fan, that this is a team that is doing what it says it's going to do offensively, spreading the ball around, being efficient. There are certainly some questions defensively and some things that are going to be answered on both sides of the ball this weekend. But I think they know that they've hit a certain level that they should always be at but we're not at in 2021, and that's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I'll start with that defense because that's the one thing, and I thought would be more of a sure thing this year. The question is, can you get an offense up to snuff and get it in a level where you can win games? And obviously, you bring in a coach like Kalen DeBoer, and you're thinking you're going to have a better offensive mind. But the defensive numbers, I mean, there are some things they've given up in these first two games. And I know they lost a couple guys to the NFL from last year's team. Is there a sense like what this defense is and can be this year?
I honestly think that there's more confidence. There's really supreme confidence offensively right now. I think the defense is more of the question mark, just because, like you said, they had two cornerbacks go in the first two rounds with Trent McDuffie and Kyler Gordon. Their secondary has really been the strength of their team historically over the past 8 to 10 years. And all of a sudden at cornerback especially, there's just not a lot of experience there. I think they feel good about their linebacker core where they've got some transfers who have come in as well as some returners. They got some interesting guys up front. They feel really good about their edge position and who's rushing the passer. But it's an interesting combination of fresh faces, experienced faces, transfers. And I do think they've got some places, like I mentioned, cornerback specifically, where they just don't have a lot of experience depth. So I think this is a group that has a lot of talent and is capable of making some big plays, but they're probably going to give up some big plays as well.
When they landed Michael Penix, I wasn't sure he'd win that job, but because I've seen good Michael Penix and I've seen not good Michael Penix in the time at Indiana, and good Michael Penix I've seen sort of tear apart a pretty good Michigan State defense a few years ago. He seems to have regained whatever mojo he had lost, and obviously he won that job there. What in your sense of what he is as a quarterback and the confidence that they have in him, and that what the juice that he adds to that offense? Can you give me a sense of that?
Yeah, I think the confidence comes from his experience with Kalen DeBoer, where DeBoer was obviously the offensive coordinator at Indiana in 2019, and you mentioned it. I mean, I think he completed 15 to 20 consecutive passes in that game where Michigan State won the game, but it was a real down-to-the-wire, kind of a crazy offensive shootout in that game. And since then, he had a year in 21 where it was unlike him in terms of the turnovers, a lot of interceptions, and I think he's back to having a real supreme confidence about his knowledge of the offense. They talk about a guy setting up, his team for success, knowing where to go with the football, knowing what he needs to do in terms of checks, protections, those kind of things, being that savvy veteran. And he's got the arm strength to get it anywhere he needs to get it. The question with him has been and will always be his ability to stay healthy, having had 4 season-ending injuries in his 4 years in college. So that's going to be the question. And he's a guy, his first 2 games has barely been touched. He hasn't been sacked. And that's going to be the big challenge going against a Michigan State defense that obviously leads the country in sacks through 2 games. So, he's a guy with a lot of experience, a lot of talent, and certainly that capability in big games. But is he going to stay upright? Are they going to be able to keep him healthy and keep him in a clean pocket? That's really the question.
The top rusher to this point, and if I butcher this last name, let me know. Taulapapa, am I right, for Wayne? I get that right?
Taulapapa, so you're 80% there. Yeah,
80%. That's closer than I usually get. Perfect. But 6.6 yards a carry. It's not a solo effort with him. Cameron Davis quite a bit, a little bit of Richard Newton, but Cameron and Davis and Wayne Taulapapa. I'm not going to get better, so I'm just going to stop trying. Number 21. Both seem to be pretty good backs. Like from what I've seen watching the first 2 games, they look like guys who give you a little something. What can you describe where that running game is right now? And I didn't, I don't remember seeing them run the ball very effectively a year ago.
Yeah, they were very poor a year ago, which was surprising, and a big part of their issue last year was the things they thought were going to be their strengths ended up being their weaknesses. But it's a real timeshare in terms of the running game right now, where you have a Wayne Taulapapa, who's a 5th-year guy who was a captain at Virginia, has played a lot of ACC football, and then he comes over here. Just a big, sturdy, reliable dude who's going to get you the tough yards, he's going to put his shoulder down and run over guys. Cameron Davis is a sophomore who can do a little bit of everything, can catch the ball out of the backfield. Richard Newton just came back from a torn ACL. He's been here a couple of years. There's another one of those physical backs. And then they've got a guy in Will Nixon who's a converted wide receiver who was at Nebraska and kind of does a little bit of everything and is sort of that hybrid back as well. So I think it's a situation where you definitely could call them a pass-first offense, but they like their running game, and they showed a lot more against Portland State than they did against Kent State. So I would expect it to be problematic going against a physical Michigan State defense. It'll be interesting to see if they can run the ball effectively or if they become one-dimensional. But they've got 4 to 5 guys that they really have confidence in. It's more of a question of whether a somewhat inexperienced offensive line can really hold up against a really physical defense.
What is the buzz there? Like, and what I don't have a sense of either is, Seattle for Washington seems like a better college sports town than a lot of other cities like it, and when Washington's good. What is the buzz around town and around campus? What's your sense of that?
Yeah, like you said, I think when Washington's good, it can be a massive Husky town. And there were times, when this team won a national championship in 1991, when they went to 3 straight Rose Bowls, where it really was a UW football town above all else. During that period, the Seahawks were down, the Mariners were down, the Sonics were down. There's been times where culturally this has been a college football town, and now I think when they're good, it is that. Right now, I think the challenge coming out of a 4-8 season and a head coach being fired is to regain the attention of the entire market, where I think in Seattle currently the Mariners are poised, it looks like, to make the playoffs for the first time in 21 years. So the Mariners have been getting a ton of attention. The Seahawks, even though they've been a little bit down, are still a massive, massive entity in this town, coming off the last decade of having success. They've got a hockey team in the Kraken. They've got a lot of support for their soccer team, the Sounders. Their WME team, the Storm, draws really well. So it's a really great sports town, but you're kind of battling to win the attention. And I think they haven't fully done that. And, Kalen DeBoer, the more he wins, the more they'll get people, into that stadium. But it'll be really interesting to see on Saturday with a non-conference opponent and a premier Big Ten team and Michigan State coming in, what that's going to look like. I imagine it's going to be close to a sellout, but it'll be interesting to see, how close to 70,000 they have in that stadium.
And it's a redone stadium, right? Recently renovated stadium?
Somewhat. The renovation happened in 2013.
Oh,
but,
it's been that long. Okay.
It's a very historic stadium, and it's one where, for years and years and years, they've had the top attendance out west. Last year was a down year where I think they averaged around 62,000. The capacity is right around 70. But with the Chris Peterson seasons before that, where they were winning the Pac-12, they'd be up at 68, 69 average, near capacity every season. They haven't been at that the first 2 weeks of the season. And like I said, I think that there's a little bit of wait and see for this coach to see where this program is at. But with the premier non-conference opponent, I think that it's going to be a really interesting atmosphere on Lake Washington on Saturday. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I know it's one of the better just sort of sites and just venues and atmospheres with the background and backdrop. You don't get a lot of places like it in college football or sports, frankly. One other thing I wanted to ask you is, so obviously the Big Ten is gone west and teams out west are coming east and all that stuff. And I'm wondering what the headwinds are as you see at Washington. And obviously, I'm guessing 3 months ago, everybody thought that they were just a firm member of the Pac-12 for life. And that probably doesn't feel quite as settled now.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated issue because if you're a fan, there's the segment that says, if we want to stay relevant, we need to be in the Big Ten. There's also the fan that wants them to play Washington State every year because that's a massive rivalry and doesn't want to get rid of their regional ties to all these different teams, all these different places. So it's an interesting situation. I think it certainly was trending until recently that eventually this was going to be a program that was going to be in the Big Ten Conference. That still may be the case, but I do think an expanded playoff does make things a little bit more interesting, where if you feel good that a Pac-12 champion is going to make the playoffs, and you should, with there being automatic bids for the top 6 conference champions, then maybe that's a reason to stay. But UW has somewhat of a national brand. They've won national championships. They have an excellent academic background. They have a lot of those boxes checked. TV market as well in terms of the things that the Big Ten will be looking for. The question is, does it make sense for the Big Ten in their next round of media rights? Does it make sense for Washington? Do they ultimately value their loyalty to the area, to the conference, to their regional rivals? there's a lot to be considered there, and I think it's going to be really interesting in the next 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, however long it goes, to see how this thing shakes out.
Yeah, this could be a regular matchup in a few years, depending on if other divisions or how they do things and how quickly they're able to cycle through games. And Seattle is, I do think there's value in Seattle. The question for a place like Washington, I think, is that TV revenue just overwhelming to the point that whatever loyalties you have out there, it's just too much to ignore as you try to keep up with the Joneses long term, I guess.
And I think ultimately, from a UW perspective, if they have an opportunity to join the Big Ten, I'd be surprised if they don't do it. Just because, like you said, you want to join a conference not as a 2-year fix or a 5-year fix, but you want it to be a 100-year decision. And you hear what they've said from USC and UCLA, and this is about guaranteeing the future of your athletic department and making sure that you can continue to field all of your teams, and you have 20-plus teams, and having revenue to spread out. And sure, there are a lot of fans that really value games against Washington State and Oregon State and some of these regional teams, but I think at the UW level, they're also thinking about how do we make sure that UW athletics is relevant and can play for championships and can field all these teams 20, 30 years from now. So that's going to be a big consideration, and like I said, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, I think it's become the story really in college football and beyond just the Big Ten. What's your sense of this game? Like if you had to pick it, where are you at on that?
Yeah, it's been interesting to see that Vegas has UW as a couple-point favorite, which I'm surprised to hear. Obviously, the ranking has Michigan State number 11 nationally. UW isn't ranked. They're coming off a 4-8 season. They haven't won one of these premier non-conference games in a long time, but they're a talented team. They've got a high-powered offense, and they're at home. I like Michigan State in this game. I think the prediction that I have in the paper is 30-27, just because from a UW perspective, having been around here for a couple of years, I just need to see it. Everything looks great, and they've really bought into Kalen DeBoer, and they're doing a lot of exciting things offensively. But when it comes to winning one of these games against a Big Ten opponent, a premier non-conference opponent, I've got to see it to believe it. They've been close. They were close against Ohio State a couple of years ago in the Rose Bowl. They were close against Auburn in 2018 in their opener. They've been close a number of times against Penn State in 2017, but they haven't finished it off. And until I see them do that, I think that it's going to be a close game. I think they're both quality teams, but I can't pick UW until I see them actually go into a non-conference premier matchup in primetime on national television like this and actually take the game.
Well, speaking of not seeing it, Michigan State hasn't won a game out west in the regular season since like the mid '80s. So there's that too. So
there's that.
Mike, very much appreciate it. Look forward to meeting you and getting to know you a little bit this weekend.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
That is Mike Vorel from the Seattle Times. You can read his work at seattletimes.com. Worth doing this week. Even worth subscribing. Good deals for it's something you can, as I've taught you with the LSJ, you can always cancel, right? Although I don't know.
Like the Athletic. All right.
I don't know where you're trying to go with that.
I don't know.
But I don't know if he'll be as helpful helping you cancel as I will be always with the LSJ, which is kind of my thing. What is your takeaway from that interview?
Well, obviously something has to change. He's waiting for a change. They have to. Michigan State has to win one on the West Coast in a while. I don't know. I'm more confident in the plus 3.5 with Michigan State after hearing him with his spiel there. Because I was like, as he was saying all that, I'm like, yeah, why the fuck was I scared of this game? He was kind of pumping me up.
Yeah, it really comes down to, like, I remember good Michael Penix, and I remember that 2019 game where he was, and that was a pretty good Michigan State defense.
Yeah, but isn't this more about traveling, going to Seattle, and
but,
that kind of thing?
But last year, and I'm writing
won on the West Coast.
That's true, but last year they went down to Miami in a difficult setup, long trip, facing a team with a lot of hopes at that time.
Yeah.
And we're really good. And I'm writing a column about that for tomorrow, just sort of the similarities and the opportunity and the different things that go into this and what that win last year meant for them and how this defines this season in certain ways and the opportunity is. It doesn't. You can lose this game. It doesn't mean the end of the season. But if you go in there and you do something and you play well and you finish strong and you look like the better team, you leave there with confidence. It sort of solidifies what you are right now as a program. And I think that's
But is that the
important.
mentality to have after you win 11 games? And if you go to Washington, I just feel like you have to win this game if you're want to be in year 2 of where you want to be after an 11-2 season. I just think you have to go with the mentality of we need to win this game.
Sure, but I don't. Every year is so different. Like every team has to form its own identity, and I think even at like Alabama, Saban would say that. Like it's not. Yes,
so
we're
Saban
this
says
program.
a lot of coach speak. Though.
That's true, but it's not. But ultimately, the reason they do that is because that stuff's true. If you don't live in the moment, if you don't keep chopping and all the bullshit they get 19-year-olds to say, if you don't do that stuff,
well, you have to have some kind of mantras.
I'm just saying that, but that stuff works, and there's a reason. If they buy in, it works, and you have to be in the moment. You have to be about this game this year. You can't be about last year at all. And what I mean, like
damn,
this
dude,
year,
you've been watching Hard Knocks.
No,
Jesus, I'm ready to go run through a wall for you.
But this year, like, it's all about the sleep, right? They're going to bed an extra hour, which originally I had no idea what that was about. I was like, "What? You're going out west? Why would you go an hour earlier? Stay up an hour later?" I don't understand what's happening. But apparently, you can bank sleep, and there's all sorts of sports science on it for like up to 5 days, and you're not supposed to sleep on the plane when you go that way. Luckily, I don't have to play in the game, so I can sleep wherever I want, however I want.
Boy, but after that Peyton Thorne burger, I felt like taking a nap. Am I right? That was delicious. I didn't get the egg on it. I heard that it came with the egg, and I've never.
I liked it with the egg. I thought it was fantastic.
Both ways.
It's definitely worth a try. And again, that is our Hopcat interview of the week, presented by our friends at Hopcat, with locations throughout the state, East Lansing, Grand Rapids, elsewhere. Go to hopcat.com and check them out, and we will keep giving out gift cards to our Hopcat Hot Take of the Day from our Monday shows. We're going to take another break here. We come back, we'll get the great Harry Gagnon on, and we'll pick the games. Couch in the Roof, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 and Cask & Company.
Hopcat exists at the intersection of great beer and delicious food, complemented by music, art, community, and comfort. Home to a best-in-class beer experience served by craft beer experts. Guests can expect a casual, inviting local gathering place with some of the best damn burgers and fries you'll find in Michigan. Hopcat is proud to be an official sponsor of Peyton Thorne. Show your Spartan pride by ordering the iconic Peyton Thorne burger, created by the man himself. There is no better place to watch any Michigan State game other than the 50-yard line at Spartan Stadium. Stop by any of our locations: East Lansing, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, and Holland. To plan your next trip to Hopcat, visit hopcat.com.
Welcome to the...
If you're looking for a relaxed vibe, great food, and an outstanding beer selection, Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing is your place. Enjoy their famed chicken and waffle fries, fish and chips, or any of their delicious burgers or salads. Midtown Brewing Company also offers 40-plus beers on tap, including ciders and seasonal offerings and daily happy hour specials. The spacious and cozy vibe makes Midtown Brewing Company a perfect place for a beer with a friend, a work lunch, or to watch the games on its big screen TVs. If you'd rather eat at home, Midtown Brewing Company offers a terrific carryout menu and free delivery on orders of $20 or more. Visit MidtownBrewingCompany.net or stop by 402 South Washington in downtown Lansing for the Midtown Brewing Company experience.
Find our live stream, podcast archives, as well as show, affiliate, and sponsorship information at our website, SpotlightMediaStudios.com.
Couch in the Roof, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis. Go to skymint.com for location information throughout the state and daily deals, weekly deals, some great stuff going on right now. And if you're watching the Lions, or you're missing on your bets, Skymint can just help you
50 mgs, weed sodas.
Get you through it. Also, our Tuesday show brought to you by our friends at Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar and Front 43 Neighborhood Pub. Great place to watch a Michigan State game or any game. We are very pleased now to have the great Harry Gagnon on from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, bestbetcorner.com, and extrapoints.com. Harry, how you doing, man?
Hey, guys. What's up? How'd you guys do this weekend?
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that means I lost, but I didn't lose a lot, but I learned something. if that makes any sense. I think you might be something. I know that your Vikings pick was kind of poo-pooed last week, and I did that. But, I mean, I'm kind of jumping on board. I know it's only week 1, Graham, but I think Harry might be onto something with Minnesota. Huh? Kirk Cousins for MVP?
Look, I mean, I mean, if the numbers continue, I mean, really, it was really the Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson show. No one really did too much of anything. Cook had 90 yards rushing, but boy, I mean, how was I understand that on offense, maybe Green Bay couldn't get going, and we discussed that last week, but they're supposed to have one of the top flight secondaries in the NFL. Where was anybody on Jefferson? I couldn't understand that the whole game. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but I couldn't understand it at the same time. Where was anybody?
All I learned last week is don't mess with home dogs. That was my big takeaway. You know, just the number of home.
Remember that stat I gave you? 28. What was that? I gave you guys 28-9.
Yeah.
And 3 opening week underdog as an underdog at home in the division. That cleaned up too.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
Listen to this, guys. My survivor pool, half of the people were out week 1. You could rebuy for $100, but you had to pick the Monday Night Football game. Only 10. So there was 100 and some rebuys. Most of the people picked Denver. There was only 10 that picked Seattle. For some reason, they picked Seattle, so they're back in. But half of the survivor pool is gone this weekend.
That's outstanding.
I know. It's outstanding for me.
Yeah, no.
How many people are left?
I think like about 150 or so.
All right.
Because there was 300 and some entries, so they said half.
Nice.
That would be half of 300.
Well, you know, around that.
All right, let's dig into these games here and see if I can do a little bit better. I want to get into this Thursday night game because and by the way, we'll be at Firekeepers Casino on Thursday night during this game, so you can come watch it with us and bet on it. Chargers plus 3.5 of the Chiefs. This was one I was right on. I was wrong on a lot, but my feeling on Mahomes was this was going to be a year for Mahomes. I've been very big on that, and that you're Kirk Cousins. I'll take Patrick Mahomes, and the Chargers are loaded. They've got more guys in that player voted top 100 than any other team. They've got, it's a loaded team. They've got a great quarterback and all that stuff. But give me the Chiefs right now. I'm all in on Mahomes all day, every day. Where are you at, Jason?
I thought you were going to go with their Madden rankings there for a second. Listen, I was impressed by the Chiefs, but I think Arizona is ass. Maybe that's gambling related, but I think their defense is ass. I think the Chargers and Herbert plus 3.5. That 3.5, that half hook, Harry, I like it. Give me the Chargers. What you got?
I don't love it. I mean, I don't like it. I love it, guys. I love it. I'm with you, Jay, with the Chargers here. Listen, I know KC looks spectacular without Hill, but yeah, you're right, Jay. Arizona's defense was awful. They have major problems. And Kyler Murray really couldn't get going. That second touchdown he threw was at the end. It didn't matter. It was a total destruction of Kansas City doing what they did against Arizona. I think Herbert still outduels Mahomes here. If you guys remember, at the end of the season last year, Staley threw that game away against Kansas City and probably cost them the playoffs for all those fourth downs that he went. Herbert's been fantastic. I love that they picked up Khalil Mack. He had 3 sacks against the Raiders in week 1. I think this is a kind of a revenge sort of situation for the Chargers. They didn't do anything wrong to lose that game. It was the coach who made the decision. And you're right, Jay. I think that hook comes into play. Give me the 3.5 for the Chargers.
Well, I don't feel great about this. I'm not gonna. I actually probably won't bet it. You love the Chargers. See, I wouldn't bet against Mahomes right now.
Well, that's understood. But doesn't it seem like we all know gambling and everything? It doesn't seem after what we just saw against the Cardinals. It just seems, and Mahomes had the 5 touchdowns, and it seems too easy to take Kansas City. It should not. I think that number should actually be about 4.5 too. So it's a little. The number's a little fishy to me too. I'm on Justin Herbert.
Yeah, no, it was also too easy to take the Seahawks or take the Broncos the other night. That was not great.
It's called gambling, Graham.
Yeah.
We understand.
Big game for the Lions, and I mean this sincerely. They are 2.5-point favorites at home against the Washington Commanders. Like, I feel like if the Lions are going to get anything out of their season, these are the games they got to win at home against the Commanders, a Commanders team that has Carson Wentz as their quarterback, and they won their first game against Jacksonville, but. This is a must-win for the Lions. Inside of a field goal, I will take that. I am going to, look, I've lost more on the Lions in my life. Why not lose a little more? I'm on the Lions. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, the under the field goal makes me want to take Detroit. I just think they get it done. And Carson Wentz, I mean, come on. You got to love when you see him on the opposite side when you're gambling. So give me the Lions -2 and a hook. What do you got, Harry?
Yeah, Washington easily could have lost last week. Nice comeback by them to pull it out. And Detroit, nice comeback by them also to get 3 touchdowns in the last 18 minutes to actually cover against Philly. Still lost the game, tough one to take, but DeAndre Swift had a monster game, 175 yards combined, at a 50-yard run. Probably might just be the best player on the field. So if that's the case, I hate saying it, but I'm taking Detroit and I'm laying the points.
All 3 of us on the Lions there, absolutely fucked.
That's not the attitude.
Sorry.
Grit.
Yeah, but understood, but very understood.
Here's a game I put in here because I love it. This is the game I love, and I know this is me poo-pooing a home dog that just lost their quarterback, but I think the Bengals are going to get it together this week a little bit, and Bengals -6.5 at a Cowboys team that's quarterbacked by Lansing's own Cooper Rush, and look, I love Cooper Rush, Lansing Catholic, all that stuff, but give me the Bengals inside of a touchdown right here. Jason, where are you?
Well, I have it at 8 right now.
Oh, it's already gone up.
Yeah,
okay.
So, I mean, does that change your pick at all? Or
Boy, I didn't realize that it moved like that.
I got to say, though, Cooper Rush, I'm still going Bengals. I know it's because of Burrow's 5 turnovers or whatever, but give me the Bengals -8. Not loving it, but I'm giving the 8.
I'm still on the Bengals for the purposes of us. If it's up at 8, I'm maybe not betting it, though. Where are you, Harry?
Yeah, you know what? I'm on the Bengals too. Look, I mean, before Dak got injured, the Dallas offense was dreadful. They looked awful on there. And, yeah, Burrow's picks, turnovers was uncharacteristic of him, but they still have a tremendous offense. I don't think we saw all the weapons what we needed to see on Sunday against the Steelers. I think that we will against Dallas. Dallas, maybe, who knows, if they continue to slide, maybe they just tank the season. Maybe they, and get a couple. I don't know how many wins they're going to get. They're going to be without him, but I didn't like the offense anyways. I think the Bengals bounce back with a nice performance without turnovers and cover the spread.
The next game here, Bears +10 at the Packers. And the Bears, and the weather almost makes that game tough to judge. Like, I feel good for the Bears, but that was a monsoon and a puddle they played in. And the Packers didn't look great either. It's a lot of points on the road. Gosh, I'm not touching this game, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to stick with the Bears. That's a lot of 10 is a lot of freaking points. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, and they have a decent quarterback. Justin Fields had a decent game, in the fourth quarter. So give me that fat 10 points. What do you got, Harry?
You know what? I'm gonna take Green Bay. I think the Bears were fortunate, and then you guys. Listen. I've taken some hits from Chicago fans over the past few days about Justin Fields and what I said about him, but still, I know they had to play in the slop and everything. But okay, he had a pick. He had 2 touchdowns. One was on a broken play and only 121 yards. Green Bay had no offense either. Don't get me wrong, but I think they made a couple mistakes. If that kid Watson makes that catch in the first quarter, maybe it's a different game. I think A.J. Dillon's a beast. They can pound him. And I think the Packers got to get Aaron Jones back into it, too. And they only had 5 carries. Get these guys going a little bit. I don't know about the Bears if they're going to be able to score against Green Bay. They're going to tighten things up. I'm going to take Green Bay and lay the points.
All right, last NFL game before we dig into the college games here. Titans +9.5 at the Bills. I mean, the Bills looked fantastic, and the Titans didn't, and yet it's a big number, and I don't know. To me, I think this is a more competitive game than maybe the line suggests. I'm going to be on the Titans here just because the number's so fat. It's not that I think they're going to win the game. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, it's up to 10, and I had to make sure that they didn't lose last week to the Giants by 40 because I don't know why they're that big of a dog. Right? I know the Bills are an unbelievable team. They're going to be talented, but 10 points. Give me that and the Titans, Harry. What do you got?
Boy, I know that it's a chunk of points, but I'm still going to take the Bills.
Wow.
I'm taking the Bills because basically, until I see somebody stop their offense a little bit, I got to ride with the Bills still. I'm sorry, but they're just unbelievable right now. And Tennessee looks sluggish. Gave that game away. Could be down. I'm taking Buffalo on that's a Monday nighter too, right?
Monday night game, yeah, it's the game to win your money back game.
There's 2 games.
You're right. I'm gonna lay the points with the Bills. Their offense is too good.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. It's not a game I don't think I'm gonna play it because I don't.
The Bills are a juggernaut, though. I mean, 10. That's just some heavy lumber. I don't know.
Mm.
All right. Like Vrabel and Tannehill and Henry can dumb that game down. I think they lose the game, but I just think 10. That's just a little too heavy.
You could be right there, but boy, Diggs had a monster game, and then you throw in Gabriel Davis, who I think is going to be an emerging star this year. It's the breakout season, I think. Third season, he's got 12 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns in 2 years with Buffalo, and hasn't even really been used that much. And he looked great against the Rams on Thursday as well. That's one heck of a 1-2 combo.
All right, let's move to the college games. We'll start with UConn plus 46.5 at Michigan. Another wasted Saturday in Ann Arbor, and just a pathetic schedule. And this has gotten embarrassing. Like Tom Crawford, our friend here, who went after Jim Harbaugh at media days. At the time, I thought it was kind of funny, but after watching the first 2 games and now this one, to not test yourself in 3 games and to just disrespect your own fans like that, I just think it's bullshit. I mean, you got 8 home games, and not only do you have 8 home games, you just don't play anybody decent. It's embarrassing. But that said, Michigan looks pretty good for what that's worth against nobody. UConn is another nobody. I think they've got a better coaching situation now. Last week, though, they got hammered by Syracuse, which is not a great program. I think Michigan's going to cover this. I do. I know they didn't cover against Hawaii. Give me the Wolverines unless they get bored, but I'm not taking UConn. Jason, where are you?
I think they're going to start letting fans play in this game. I don't know. They let everyone. I think all 105 players got to play against Hawaii. So I'm going to fade this game, but give me UConn, boys. What do you got, Harry?
Graham, you're slamming my Syracuse a little bit, huh? They're 2-0 start. They're a juggernaut, baby. They're a juggernaut. They rolled UConn. Oh, listen, I'm still gonna take Michigan here. They didn't cover last. I did get a kick. Well, by the way, Hawaii outscored in their first 2 games, 107-17. But I did get a kick out of Harbaugh. Did you notice, guys? With 2 minutes to go, Hawaii was the 6-yard line, and Harbaugh wasn't happy with the defense. He actually called timeout to get them huddled up to make sure Hawaii didn't. So you know what? I know it's kind of funny, but I love that kind of too. Making sure these guys are fired up and ready at all times. Didn't cover last week. I think they get it done, and they cover against the Huskies on Saturday.
All right. The Michigan State is plus 3.5 at Washington. And, I get that. It's a hard game to – basically the 3.5 is basically being home. This is a pick 'em essentially in a neutral field is what Vegas is saying. Because I don't think Vegas has an idea about either one of these teams. They've had a similar start against two similar type opponents. And I would take Michigan State here with the points. I wouldn't advise people. There are times I advise people this is a good week to take Michigan State. I don't feel great about that though. I don't. It's not a lot of points. You could easily lose this game by a touchdown or a little more. I think it's a competitive game, but with 3.5, I'll take MSU here, but without a whole lot of confidence. Jason, where are you?
See, I wasn't very confident, Harry, on when we recorded our Sunday Hot Take show, but that has changed. I feel like MSU's being kind of disrespected, being 11th overall, traveling to Washington. Michael Penix, I understand, but I think that Michigan State's defense is better than people think. Give me the 3 and a hook, and I like it a lot. What do you got, Harry?
Yeah, this is actually, I think, one of the most compelling games of the weekend. I like this non-conference matchup. I think it's going to be a fun one. New coaching staff for Washington. They all came from Fresno, doing a great job so far. 97-26, they've outscored their opponents. You mentioned Michael Penix Jr. He's back, former Hoosier. He's had completing 70% of his passes, 6 touchdowns to 1 interception overall. Their receiver, Jalen McMillan's had a monster 2 games as well. He's got over 200 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. Michigan State won 52-0 last week, but no thanks to Thorne, who had 0 touchdowns and 2 picks. I'm turning the corner here with the Huskies. I'm going to take them. I'm going to lay the 3.5 against the 11th ranked Spartans.
So, yeah, I can see that. I wouldn't if somebody has an argument for Washington, there's no reason right now to take either team either way and be certain. And the 11th ranking, that's a bunch of writer boobs like me. That's
still counts.
Okay.
It makes you sound smart when you say it.
Look! 2 weeks ago, Oregon was ranked 11th. And we saw what happened to them against Georgia, right? So
right. Nobody knows less than the writers.
Right.
A bunch of morons.
Maybe podcasters.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right, next game in here, Oklahoma minus 11.5 at Nebraska. I wanted to put this in here because Nebraska is fascinating, and what that atmosphere is going to be. and whether they're playing for this new coach, who's the first black coach, by the way, in the history of Nebraska athletics, which is a little embarrassing, by the way, not just Nebraska football, but Nebraska athletics. But the minus 11.5 for Oklahoma. I don't love this Oklahoma team. I mean, I think they're a good team, but normally if this was 2 weeks ago, I would have been on Nebraska here. Of course, that line wouldn't be there. What we don't know is, does Nebraska get that new coach will hang in there for a minute bump, or is this thing wheels off and they are screwed? I tend to go with Oklahoma here. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, is this line off for a reason? Am I being like a public jabroni or something where I just don't know gambling? Because I think Oklahoma minus 11.5 is a lock to me. I don't know. What do you think, Harry?
You know what? Look, I gave out Nebraska against Northwestern. Graham, you'll appreciate this for a guy who loves his teasers. How about this? I had a 16 teaser last week. All 5 came in. I needed Nebraska, and I rolled with them again at 17.5 against Georgia Southern, and they lose straight up. Then they fire Scott Frost, which deservedly so. I mean, I can't get this Nebraska team right for anything. Oklahoma, though, they got the quarterback, Dylan Gabriel from Central Florida, who had put up about 75 touchdowns in 3 years there, but didn't play great, almost losing at halftime to Kent, a week ago here. So 11.5 double digits, new coach. I want to take Oklahoma, but I'm not going to do it. I'm a glutton for punishment, and I'm taking the Cornhuskers again.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, you just don't know. I do not think Oklahoma's great. You just don't know what Nebraska's going to be. That's going to be really fascinating to see. All right, Pitt minus 10.5 at Western Michigan, and what's too bad is this game's at 7:30 p.m., which is also the same time Eastern time as the Michigan State-Washington game, because that'd be a sweet trip to go to Kalamazoo and watch that for people, and they don't get a team like that in Waldo Stadium all that often. I think Western Michigan's going to be a pretty decent team. I think they woke up against Ball State after what was a crummy start and won on the road and covered. So, that leaves you. I mean, the funny thing about Western Michigan is they beat Ball State by 7, and the line was 6.5. If they'd beaten Ball State by 6, I'd be like, I think Western sucks. They won by 7. They covered. So I'm like, Western's pretty good. That's just sort of the nature of the beast. This will be interesting because Pitt played Tennessee really tough, losing to overtime last week. They beat West Virginia in a close game. They're obviously capable, but that hook, 10 and a hook on the road, I think Western's going to be competitive here. Give me Western Michigan. Jason, where are you?
I'm not buying it. I like Pitt minus 10.5. What do you got here?
It was a wild game for Pitt last week against Tennessee, and Pitt lost that game. Slovis got injured. I didn't love him anyways. I didn't love him at USC. He got benched at the end of the season last year. Broncos are tough. Give me Western Mish.
Love it. There we are. By the way, Harry, I used to live in Kalamazoo, in case you didn't know.
Cockburn.
The Nevada. This one also for kicks.
Why
Nevada.
is this game on the list here?
Because this is great.
Jesus.
Iowa, who hasn't scored 23 points this season, is a 23.5-point favorite against Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. I love this. And this is what I love about college football. This never-ending optimism about an absolute shit team. Now, Nevada, whatever we're calling them, is I don't know how great they are. They beat a bad New Mexico.
They're complete ass. They lost to Incarnate Word at home 55-41. That's all we need to know.
Incarnate Word is underrated. They did beat Texas State. They also beat New Mexico State. I don't look. Here's the question though.
Incarnate Word.
Does Iowa have it in them? Iowa against nobody.
I don't want to watch this game.
Iowa against nobody. Can they score 23? I don't know.
Harry, why is he doing this to us? I don't want to watch.
Well, I'll tell you this: for being the complete degenerate, I do have interest in this game because I do have Nevada under 4.5 wins for the season.
Oh, you got it.
And I didn't like them beating Texas State like you meant. Texas State, by the way, I had them last week. That was a nice cover. I had them, and they covered pretty easily. But I didn't like Nevada beating Texas State week 2. So I'm looking at Iowa. I'm definitely got my eye on this game. They better not.
Well, how did you feel about Incarnate Word dropping 55 on Nevada?
Believe me, I was paying attention. I was paying attention to that game.
Oh my God.
That was what a gift that was. Since Nevada already has 2 wins.
And by the way, Incarnate Word, like Southern Illinois is a good program. That's like Southern Illinois would do okay a lot of times in the MAC. Incarnate Word beat them 64-29. So this is not like some
Couch can spin anything.
This is not like some team that has no offense. This is Incarnate Word's got it going on in San Antonio there. But
Southern Illinois had Brandon Jacobs who won a Super Bowl with the Giants before. So
15 years ago.
No, they've had good teams since then. They've had very good teams
What are
since
you
then.
guys talking about?
They're an upper tier 1AA.
What?
Okay, I am going to Nevada here, and I just want to see it. I want to see a 10-7 final, and I want to see what happens.
This should be a win or your program is done forever game. Now that would be I would watch that.
So are you on Iowa then?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me Iowa. Yes.
Quit shitting on the Salukis. Come on, man. I'm gonna take Iowa too. Hey, listen, Iowa. They said Petrus is still their quarterback. I mean, they have more safeties than they have touchdowns this year. And you're right, laying 23.5 sounds crazy. I'm gonna do it.
Is there anything?
I'm just ripping on Nevada. That's all.
Is there anything else you love this week, Harry?
In college, I don't love a lot, really. In the NFL, I think the Chargers right now. Usually in these games, I try to stay away from the Thursday games, the Monday games. Boy, I love the Seahawks last night, and I think as of right now, Chargers may be my best play of the week. I really like this spot. I mean, everyone's going to be on. Basically, again, Kansas City was unbelievable. Mahomes. Now he's the favorite for the MVP, and the line's only 3.5. It sounds fishy. It is fishy to me a little bit, and also kind of like now here's the one for you. Saints, Buccaneers coming off that game on Sunday night really couldn't get. The offense looked decent, but couldn't get in the end zone. But still beat Dallas fairly easy. Saints pulled that game out late. Winston looked good in the second half. And Tampa's giving them 3. Meanwhile, since Tom Brady has been in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform, he is 0-4. 0-4 straight up against the Saints. That's an interesting one.
I got 2 before we go, boys.
Okay.
BYU, Oregon. I think getting plus 3.5. I know it's at Oregon, guys, but I just like the way BYU's playing so far this season. Alabama at Louisiana Monroe. It's minus 48.5. Now, Louisiana Monroe played Texas. Texas didn't cover that heavy spread. Now, will Alabama know that and want to hammer Louisiana Monroe? So that those 2 games are interesting for me. But what do you got here on BYU, Harry?
Yeah, I mean that was some win. That was some crazy game. I mean, I was checking that score while I was in Tucson last week for the Mississippi State Arizona game, which didn't end until like 12:15 local time. But that's an interesting game too, and I think that's a situation where they could cover because they're a solid team too. Absolutely.
All right, I have a Premier League parlay this weekend. It's a limited slate because
I got a pick for you too after you give your parlay. I'm gonna write this down now.
Awesome.
I'm writing down your pick. All
Premier League's limited because the Queen's not dead apparently yet. But it's anyway it's Man City at Wolves is minus 300. I like that with Newcastle home against Bournemouth. Minus 225. You parlay them together at minus 110. It's a nice little, just about, it's pretty much even money. And so I think that's a really strong parlay with 2 favorites that I think are going to win. And they've had a lot of time off. I mean, teams are coming. That said, Man City does have a Champions League match midweek, but I like Man City at Wolves. And going into the international break, I think there will be they'll play all their guys, and I like that a ton. What do you got, Harry?
Same thing here. The Man City Wolves game, over-under is 2.5. Man City has scored 10 in their last 2 matches, 10 goals in the last 10 matches, and in the last 2 matches. And that over is easily hit in their matchups 4 of the last 5 times. Give me over 2.5.
I love it. I love it when Harry's mind's on the Premier League. It's beautiful. Harry, you are a beautiful man. Look forward to chatting again next week.
Thanks, Harry.
Let's keep rolling, guys. Keep rolling.
That's Harry Gagnon, the great Harry Gagnon from bestbetcorner.com, extrapoints.com, as well as the Against All Odds podcast. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you listening, right? And if you like what you're hearing, we're on Patreon now as well. You go to patreon.com, Couch in the Rube, different ways to subscribe, different levels, and we may do something for some of the top levels at some point. But, again, the show will remain free. That's just if you want to support us a little extra, we'd appreciate you. We also would love to see you on Thursday night at Firekeepers Casino, Dacey's Sportsbook and Tap Room at Firekeepers Casino, 7 to 9 on Thursday night for a live show. We hope to see you there. We appreciate Front 43 and Cask & Company. Amazing place to watch the game. The game at Washington this week, 7:30. Front 43 and Cask & Company will have it everywhere. Thanks to Skymint, as always. Hopcat as well. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.